My name is Tom Kaiser with Franchise Times. We're here on day 2 of RFDC with Stephen Polanski from Buxton. Stephen had a great presentation earlier today about malls possibly being the new 4-letter word. It's a topic that I hear a lot in my interviews, and site selection in general is pretty crucial these days. Tell me, what would you say to a brand that sees itself fairly heavily invested in B or C level malls? I mean, is it time to jump ship, or should they really just dig in and do a little bit more research about the portfolio that they're in?
Well, Tom, it's definitely time to investigate. Malls are changing. Retail has changed significantly in the last decade in time. But yeah, it's time to change. It's time to look in, talk with the developers, understand what the opportunities are to drive incremental traffic. If there are opportunities, if they're real opportunities, or if they're just trying to keep tenants within the building.
Sure.
But yeah, it's it's a challenging time out there right now. And again, if you're heavily invested in malls in general, regardless of the type or the quality, it's definitely time to look at other channels for incremental growth opportunities.
And you said in your presentation that you use a lot of data to back up some of the things that you're saying, of course. How should one evaluate the difference between an A-level mall and something that's a B or C level? I mean, what are some of the demographic or numerical points you'd look at?
Yeah, well, from a Buxton perspective, we look at a lot of psychographic data based on people that have traveled, within a given mall's parking lot, within the mall in general. So, we draw everything back to consumer behaviors. But I mean, the easiest old school way to go about it is to drive into the parking lot in the middle of the afternoon,
sure.
Or walk through the food court, or what was the food court. There's kind of a lot of boots on the ground applications that you can look, vacant buildings, etc. But from a Buxton perspective, it's always driven from that third party data. I know that not everyone has that luxury to be able to look really deep within what that customer base is, but there are different demographics or different psychographics that still leverage a mall to some capacity. Again, if you can get them off the couch and in there for some type of experience, and those malls are still doing pretty good. On the flip side, there is a lot of downtime, and there are a lot of malls that are struggling. But as I mentioned earlier this morning, there's a lot of developers that are doing really unique things with malls too, specifically B and C malls, moving big corporations in there from an office building standpoint. If that's the case, I mean, there's a mall specifically that I know about up in the Midwest that 75% now is occupied by corporate employees.
Really?
Now, if you're a fast casual concept and that's going on, that's probably a good thing if you're primarily lunch-driven application and you know who your customer is. So you got to know what's going on with the development, or with the developer, the mall owners. The best way is to get out there first and foremost. Second piece is really to leverage it by some third-party data application to understand traffic at an overall level. And then the third piece is really make sure that traffic is your kind of traffic. And then the fourth piece, of course, is hopefully they're making some updates so they can drive incremental traffic to hopefully help you drive bottom line results.
And as I've heard from you and other watchers of the mall world, malls aren't necessarily as forthcoming with some of their own data as they used to be. So how might a brand that doesn't necessarily have the boots on the ground to go out and do whether it's a pedestrian or foot traffic study on their own, are there companies out there that they can contract with to kind of evaluate some of the malls that they're players in?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Buxton's a great example of that. We do a lot of the heavy lifting from a psychographic and demographic standpoint. And apply that to a very large scale so that they can prioritize growth and opportunity. I would tell you that a lot of our work as it would relate to A, B, and C malls had to do with the mall-based retailers. The food guys are a little different. They've been they've been in a position where they can get great rent rates right now, and because again those landlords are trying to bring them in to drive traffic because typically people have to show up to eat, even though as we talked about today that's even changing. But at the end of the day, yeah, there are a lot of things that you can do at a mass scale, and there's a lot of organizations, Buxton included, that can really do that heavy lifting and help you give you that third party data driven approach so that you can make better decisions.
Well, one of the last things I wanted to ask you about, Stephen, is one of my favorite sources on the retail side of the world. I was talking with him recently, and he was suggesting that this is probably going to be a fairly decent holiday shopping season here as we're getting close to that time of the year. But he said on the other side of the coin that he still expects 2018 to be fairly brutal overall in terms of retail. Do you feel the same way, or do you think things might shake out a little differently?
You know, again, from a data perspective, and again, I get to talk to a lot of people in a lot of different industries, you know, in the specialty retail world, the hard goods, soft goods, and then in the restaurant space. You know, there is definitely a lot of disruption going into 2018. There's a lot of disruption with our economy. There's a lot of disruption with competition. There's other applications from, you know, food safety to, you know, minimum wage application to even healthcare that's still kind of a lingering issue out there for a lot of people. So I think it's going to be a challenging year. But I said it earlier today, and I'll say it again: the winners win. They use data. It's unbiased. It takes the emotion out of it. They understand where they're going, and they stick to their guns. They don't, you know, kind of fly with their wings open and kind of try to serve all to all people. People that have tried to do that, specifically in the retail space, have made the news a lot lately. I don't know if you've seen. But again, the people that stick to their guns and are real smart and you know their business, but again know their customer best, are both the retailers and the restaurant chains that will continue to strive and make 2018 successful.
Well, it's certainly interesting to watch, and thank you for sharing your insight. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for making time for us.